All right, everybody, we are back. I'm looking forward to today. We have none other than Tobias Dengel on the line right now. Tobias, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Ben?
I am well. I am well. Where are you hanging out today?
I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
as you know, Steve Case has this theory of the rise of the rest, and we're big believers in that. Tech's going to be in more places than New York and Boston and the Bay Area. So we're part of that trend, hopefully.
Virginia's coming on strong.
Yeah, we're Amazon's coming. So
Yeah. Now, do you feel like
unlike New York, we didn't kick them out.
you're like, please come, please, please. That's amazing. When does that happen? Do you guys have any idea?
I think as fast as 24 months, their first folks are coming over. Yeah, it's right. It's not right next to us. It's up by DC, but it will. I think it'll make Virginia more of a tech center, obviously, than it is today, which is great.
Well, we'll have to keep checking in with you over the next 24 months just to see how things change. I love hearing about stuff like that. So that would be really cool.
For sure. Yeah.
Sweet. So today, what I really wanted to get into is you're the CEO of Willow Tree, and I want to get into what Willow Tree is in a little bit. But first, I really wanted to dig in. I know that you've been thinking a lot about voice technology. As my audience knows, I'm a big voice guy, helped create one of the larger voice communities on Facebook called Voice Entrepreneur. I just want to get into it with you. What are you seeing in the voice space here in 2019? What are you excited about? What's making your sort of your eyes pop right now?
So what gets us fired up is thinking about what's next just in the digital space overall. Our clients rely on us to help them figure that out. And as you know, every year there's five false starts. If you go back 5 years, people were talking about Google Glass, and then for a while at CES, a few years, not that long ago, it was 3D TV was going to change the world, right? And
My
a lot of
father-in-law,
this,
my father-in-law like put a lot of money in the stock market on 3D TV.
yeah. And I think what you always have to come back to is what is this a cool tech in search of a problem, or is this a technology that's solving a problem for the end user, right? And so um, what 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 really gets us going about voice is it solves a real problem, and that's the speed of the human machine interface, right? And ultimately what that comes down to is that we type, at 40 or 50 words a minute, which is, that's on a, that's for the typical human. If you're typing with your thumbs on a mobile device, it might be half that, might be 20 words a minute, but we can speak at about 150 in English anyway. So that is the promise, right? That we can transmit information about 3 times as fast as we can today. And that's why we as humans are so tempted to pick up our phones and use Siri or to shout across the room at Alexa, um, because it's just so much faster than typing, right? Especially in an always-on world where there's no boot up time, there's no activation, you just roll. And that's why we really believe voice is going to be a big deal. But what we think the problem is with voice right now is it's a self-contained voice experience. So you got to listen to Alexa, Siri, whatever typically respond to you. So everyone is super psyched to ask Alexa, for example, what movies are playing tonight. No one is super psyched to wait for Alexa to tell you, yeah, there are 8 movies and list them all, and here's the showtime for each one. That's basic, that's movie phone. We had that 20 years ago. And I think that's what's really holding back voice right now is that there's all this promise of how you transmit to it, but the actual receiving of info is brutal right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that obviously the car is such a big place for voice, and I think we're starting to see with Siri and Alexa and so forth, but really with Siri because the iPhone, it's actually like texting while you're driving using Siri is starting to work, I believe, and I believe people want to do it. But to your point, it's really tough to receive information through these devices. Still, it's a pain in the ass. It's just not working yet.
Exactly. So what we think the future is and why over the next year or two, voice is going to break out in a huge way is these blended experiences. Some people call them multimodal. Some people call them blended ecosystems. But basically, you ask Alexa, let's say, what movies are playing tonight, and then on your iPhone, you get a notification, and you look at your screen, and then you say, all right, cool, 4 tickets to Star Wars at 8 p.m. Back to Alexa, and then boom, tickets are in your app. And that, that scenario, it might take 15, 20 seconds to order movie tickets. And even under best case right now in an app, it takes, 90 seconds, 120 seconds. So anyone who's been around tech for any amount of time knows that if you take a process that consumers are doing and you can cut the time it takes by 50%, 80%, it's going to get adopted overnight. And so that's where we think all the action is in voice. And we kind of think that the experiences now in Alexa are a little bit analogous to the experiences on AOL in the mid 90s, where, it was kind of the worldwide wait, where it really kind of sucked, but there was still stuff you could get done. It was so promising. It was so close. And then all of a sudden it blew open 2-3 years later with broadband and a bunch of other things. We think what's going to blow voice open is this concept that you're going to transmit, you're going to ask quick questions, and then you get written responses or graphical responses that we can consume, because we can read at 250 words a minute. So we can read twice as fast as we can listen. And then, you get to that word where you transmit by speaking and you read the response. And we're doing that today. That's basically voice texting. You voice text it out, you read the response. Or, for me, I don't even listen to my voicemails anymore. I read the transcription on my phone, but I like leaving voicemails because it's, especially if I'm driving, it's way faster than typing that stuff.
So interesting. So what you're saying basically is human beings can only really type on a phone at around 20 words a minute. They can type on a keyboard at around, what did he say? 50?
40. 50.
40 words a minute. But then that they can actually speak words at around 150 words per minute. But then if they go to multimodal, then you're talking about what? Probably
then you
double.
Can read at about 250.
Yeah, so you're probably getting up to 250 at that point.
Yeah. And so that's where the world breaks open, right? Because there are lots of consumer applications, but all the data entry, all this stuff that's still happening in the business world, in the work environment. Like, you think about a world where all that transmission happens at 2-3 times the speed as we can type today. And we run a software development business. When you talk to developers, right, they'll tell you, in about 20% of the time that they're dedicated to a problem, 20% is dedicated to problem solving, and 80% is just dedicated to typing in the code. And if you can cut that typing down over time, you've got all kinds of efficiencies throughout all different facets of the economy. So that's why
cool.
we're so pumped
so
about
cool.
this.
So many questions for you. Do you see this anywhere yet? Is it like, how do you see this playing out? Like, when we talk about screens, like, how are you seeing this done today? Like, what's going on in this space right now?
So what we are, and that's why we're psyched about 19. I think we're going to see the first mass adoption of this kind of stuff. You see it a little bit, right? You see it in the Waze app, for example. There's a microphone where you can, just within the app itself, talk about the destination you're going to, tell it the destination. That's just a speed thing. It's also a driving thing in that particular use case. But I think the concept of voice in the apps is where you're going to see the big breakthroughs. I think you're going to see little mics popping up as buttons all over the place that allow you to do that. And I think you'll see it in apps like, movie apps. You're going to see it, you're going to see it in a pizza ordering app, right? If you want pepperoni and sausage, you should be able to order that in the time it took me to say that, 2 seconds, versus going through the app, typing all the different, selecting, blah, blah, blah. It takes, a solid minute. When the other area that it's going to hit, I think, this year is financial services, because in financial services, not only do you have the speed issue, you also have the privacy issue, right? Most of us are with other people most of the time. So you don't want to ask your banking app what your balance is, or if a check is cleared, whatever, and have your kids hear it, or your family, your friends. But if you can say, what's the balance, and it pops up in the notification, boom, you got it. And we're, we're working, for example, on an app that is going to launch in the next month for a major bank that's going to do exactly that. I'll send it to you when it's out. But I think those are the kind of things that people are going to start getting voice real quick and saying, wait, it's not this annoying thing that I can use my Alexa. And there's great use cases now, right? You can get your news, you can get the weather, you can play the right music, you can turn your lights on, whatever. But in terms of really replacing a lot of the things we use our computers and phones for, at today, it's not. This multimodal is what's going to change that.
That's awesome. I love those examples. I love the Waze example. It makes me also think of Google Analytics, where you basically have a set of complex functions. You have a very very complex dashboard, and you have people that want to get a simple answer to something. Voice makes a lot of sense, and then a graphic overlay, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is anyone else out there doing it in a particularly interesting way that our listeners should check out?
Um, that's a great question. I mean, I think the Waze example is the one that's the most obvious, just because the penetration of that app is so big, and we can all see it exactly. And I think we're all already doing it by voice transmission of text and then reading it, or leaving voicemails and then reading the transcription. I think you get to the second half of 2019, you're going to start, once you start thinking about this, you're going to start noticing it all over the place.
Yeah. Do you think consumer apps like Instagram will adopt this as well? Or do you see it as a different thing altogether?
I think it will 100% be integrated into all major consumer facing apps, just because think about Pinterest, right? You turn on your app and you hit it and say, show me pictures of postmodern kitchens, whatever you're looking for. And it's just faster and easier and more elegant than typing it.
Yeah, and I actually, now that I think about it, say what you want about like Apple TV and so forth, but using that with the Apple TV with the remote control and searching for a title or searching for through YouTube for a particular video, for the most part, works amazing.
Yeah, that's a perfect use case. And my kids use that all the time. I'll tell you a funny story. We just took a JetBlue flight down to Florida, and 10, 15 years ago when JetBlue first started flying, I was like, oh my God, it's so cool. They've got DirecTV. It's the best entertainment system in the world. And we landed, and I said, how awesome was that flight? How'd you like DirecTV? And they say, it sucked, Dad. And I was like, why did it suck? And he's like, A, we had these stupid controls that we had to kind of use instead of voice, A. And B, they had these things called channels. Like, I just want to be able to watch what I want. Like, what is a channel? It's hard to explain.
You're like, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Amazing. So what else are you seeing in the voice space right now that interests you?
Well, so I think there's, obviously this concept of speed. The second thing that's really interesting is this concept of trust. And where a lot of these assistants have gone is they've really tried to emulate the human experience. And, when you build any voice experience, you've got a choice, right? You can either make it as human as possible, or you can try and shy away from that and make it more either robotic sounding. And there's also a whole element, the question around male, female versus binary that we get into in a bit. But around the trust piece, we've been thinking a lot about what is trust based on. We've got a couple of PhDs here in psychology and sociology that we really rely on to help us think through this. And what's interesting is human trust of other humans has kind of two main components. One is emotional or affective trust, and the other is cognitive trust. And emotional trust is, how do I feel about you? And then cognitive trust is, do I feel that I can rely on you? Are you going to do what you say you're going to do? And what's interesting about humans is when you first meet someone, it's 90% affective trust or emotional trust, because we as humans, you have no basis for knowing, is this person actually going to do what they say they're going to do? And really, we're using a million clues that we've developed in our genetics in our lifetime to decide, is this person trustworthy, right? And so the risk, if you create human sounding voice, we as humans immediately start thinking, can I trust this voice as a human? Whereas if we are interfacing with what's clearly a machine, We don't really care about that so much anymore. And there's a really, really interesting experiment that I think got run out of the Harvard psychology department, where you've probably heard about this, where there's a pot of money, and you and I are strangers. We're never going to see each other again. We're going to split that pot of money, and I get to decide. I get to make an offer to you as to what it should be split. And it's humans, if I give you 50-50, you'll take it every time. If I take 60% and give you 40, you might take it, you may not. If I take 90 and give you 10, you're never going to take it because you think it's unfair, even though it's $10 you would have never had, right? And that's all based on trust. Is that other person acting fairly, et cetera? Now, if we tell the other person, hey, we've got a computer simulated game here, and the computer is randomly going to decide what percentage of this $100 you get, and then we say, all right, computer came out and said, computer keeps 90, you keep 10, you keep the 10 every time because that's 10 you don't have. And so what's so mind-blowing about that is you would have received the $10 each way, but if a human gave it to you, you would say, no way, that's not fair. But if a computer gave it to you, you're like, that's the way the ball bounces. And what that means to us is the more human you make these voice experiences, the higher the threshold of trust has to be. And it's just really hard to get that right. So our gut is that these voice experiences are actually going to be better the less human they are.
Interesting. Interesting. Tell me more on that.
And so, because if you make it less human, humans, as crazy as it sounds, humans will not be worried about, do I trust this person, this thing emotionally? They'll just say, can I rely on it? And if we can make these voice experiences reliable, we don't have to deal with this whole emotion around, do I like it? Do I not like it? Does it have to be female for me to like it? Does it have to be male for me to like it?
I think that's so counterintuitive, actually. I think most people would think the opposite.
I know. It's crazy. And I had no idea. We started looking at, we said, we posed the question ourselves, how do we build trust with these experiences we're building for our clients? And then we said, well, to do that, we got to understand what trust is. And then we started talking to, experts who study trust, and we're like, holy shit, we're thinking about this exactly backwards. Everyone's trying to make it more human to build trust. We should actually make it less human to build trust.
See, that's fascinating because, over the last year, I've heard so many people argue we need more human voices. And I think you're right. If you think about it, humans trust automation. It's almost like we trust an ATM now more than we trust a bank teller. Same idea, same exact idea.
Yeah.
That is really cool. That's real. So how are you playing this?
Yeah.
How are you playing this?
Well, so what we do is we help our clients build the in-app voice experiences. Obviously, Alexa, Siri, all the Google Assistant, those are their own ecosystems. We can't control what those sound like, et cetera. But if we're going to put voice inside of an app, we're going to try and make it, we have the advantage that we don't have to make it do everything, right? If we're building a voice for a banking app, no one expects it to be able to tell you what the weather is. So it's a very specific set of things we're trying to get it to do, but we're trying to make it less human and more machine-like, because people don't want to joke with their freaking banking app or their banking voice. They want to know what their balance is. And if you walked up to an ATM that had like an image of a human being talking to you about, here's your balance, that's actually less effective than just having the screen.
Yeah, it reminds me of like that. I think there was like a Curb episode with like Larry David where it's like you don't actually want to get to be friends with the waiter or the bank teller, because like then you have to like actually treat them like a human, and you have to like be nice to them and take time and so forth. And what you're saying makes sense. Obviously a more human voice for some applications makes a ton of sense. If you're building more relationship style applications, then maybe it does make sense. But when you're talking about, a cold automated process, then you might need a cold automated voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fast. And that, you're just trying to get something done, right? No one wants to be friends with your bank or your cinema chain or your retailer. You're just trying to get something done.
Man. So where do you see like overall in voice in 2019, Where do you think we'll be by the end of the year? Any way of like talking about that or thinking about that?
Well, so what I think is interesting is, voice as a technology and as a device has been the fastest adoption of a technology in U.S. history, right? We've gotten to about 50% penetration of U.S. households in 4 years, where it took the smartphone 6 years. So it's, people want it, people love it, and I think right now it's they
Second
get it in their
second
house.
fastest after the adult industry, probably.
Well, there you go.
There you go. All right. Sorry, had to
Um,
interrupt.
the the so people have it, people want it. They still, outside of very basic applications, haven't found great use cases for it. I think this is the year that you start having these blended environments where you're just using it all the time, but because it's tied into your other devices. So you ask Alexa, to book you a ticket, to get you, book me what flights are available tomorrow morning to New York, and you get the alert on your phone, and you look at them and you say, all right, book me the 9 a.m. United flight. That kind of stuff is going to happen, and it's going to happen, I think, really, really quickly. You're also going to be able to interface directly with your Orbitz app or your United app to do the same thing. And I think the companies that invest in that are going to have a meaningful advantage, because consumers at the end of the day are driven by speed and convenience. And the younger they are, the more, folks in their young 20s, whatever generation they're currently calling that, I mean, that's all they care about is speed and convenience.
So Tobias, how do people find you?
So our website is willowtreeapps.com. That's, most of our clients are word of mouth, frankly. It's still hilarious that people still Google us. And we go to a few conferences, but not that many. Our main issue, honestly, has been keeping up with demand. We just happen to be in a very fortunate cycle right now where there's so much demand for digital work that the hard part is actually, hiring and retaining amazing talent.
Yeah, it's hard to find great people, and when you have a team like you do, yeah, I think you're in demand. And obviously, I just love the way that you guys are approaching the voice space. And I agree, man. I really think that this is, the next big wave of activity. And it takes a little while to learn how to play it, but I love how you're thinking about it. And I'm sure our listeners will want to get in touch, maybe ask you a question or two and see if, maybe they can work with you or, see what's possible. So cool. Well, thank you so much for being on Chance Bending today. It was a good one, man. We have to have you back. Next time we're going to do some video. And if you ever happen to be in LA, gotta come over.
Yeah, I will do that for sure. And when we launch some of these apps over the next years, I'll just send them to you, and you can check them out. But I think this voice blended experience is going to be, the big thing for the next 18, 24 months.
Tobias, this is sweet. All right, man. Thank you so
All
much
right.
for the time. All right. Till next
Thanks,
time.
Ben.
All right.
Great chatting.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody, this is Ben. So I wanted to take a second away from the podcast to tell you we are now offering Chance Bending coaching. So I'm so excited about this. It's crazy. Basically, we offer a program where we help entrepreneurs get results. First and foremost, we help you get results. We have incredible testimonials. We've helped so many people over the last year or so, and I think you're going to love this program. We give you an actionable plan. We teach you how to run business models. We really just help you move toward that entrepreneurial life you were meant to lead. So pure and simple, we create business results. If you act now, we have a special. Just go to bensmith.tv. We have $100 off. It's so affordable, guys. It's like, I can't believe we can offer it at this price. Like right now, we're offering coaching at $297 a month. I don't know anybody that can meet that price. That's what we're doing. You get all sorts of media, you get modules, you get courses, you get all sorts of stuff. It's like I'm so pumped to offer this to you. So go again, bensmith.tv, click join now, join the Chance Bending Network. It's awesome. All right, back